And speaking of plane crashes, on Christmas Day, an Azerbaijani Airlines plane crashed in Kazakhstan. 38 people were killed. Since then, multiple theories have been floated, from birds to Ukrainian drones. Everything has been discussed.
A devastating tragedy occurred near Aktau, Kazakhstan, when an Azerbaijan Airlines flight went down in flames, claiming the lives of 38 people out of the 67 passengers on board. The question is, what happened? Probe findings indicated the plane suffered damage from external factors, sparking grave concerns about regional aviation safety.
We start this hour with developing news on the plane crash in Kazakhstan. Reuters is now reporting that 4 sources in Azerbaijan say the aircraft was downed by Russian air defense systems.
This tragic incident has left families heartbroken and also created tension between Azerbaijan and Russia. Before we get into the story, subscribe to this channel for more remarkable accounts of plane crashes in history. On December 25th, 2024, a tragic event unfolded that shook the aviation world and left countless families in mourning. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 crashed near Aktau, Kazakhstan, resulting in the heartbreaking loss of 38 lives, including both pilots and many passengers.
An Azerbaijan Airlines passenger plane which crashed on Wednesday. 38 people died when that plane, destined for Grozny in Russia, came down in neighboring Kazakhstan.
The flight, which was an Embraer 190, was making its way from Baku to Grozny when it encountered catastrophic circumstances just moments after takeoff. Initially, reports suggested that the aircraft had to divert to Aktau because of some pretty nasty weather, particularly thick fog that had rolled in. Now, we all know how tricky fog can be for pilots, as it can mess with visibility and make landing a real challenge, so it seemed like a reasonable explanation at first. But as investigators started digging deeper into what happened, they uncovered something much more alarming. Eyewitnesses near the crash site reported hearing loud explosions just before the aircraft went down.
The plane's flight path from this point appeared to show it moving erratically, oscillating from left to right, as well as up and down, quickly losing and gaining speed and altitude.
This was a huge red flag and raised serious concerns about airspace safety in a region that's already known for military activity and geopolitical tensions. People were understandably shaken, and the idea that something external might have caused the crash was terrifying. The crash left families devastated. Imagine the shock of losing a loved one so suddenly. Vigils and memorials were held across Azerbaijan, where people came together to honor the victims and support each other through their grief. The emotional impact of this tragedy rippled through communities, affecting friends, colleagues, and neighbors who were left to grapple with the reality of such a devastating loss. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that the situation was far more complex than just bad weather. The flight was carrying a total of 67 individuals, 62 passengers, and 5 crew members. While the initial focus was on the weather, investigators began to uncover evidence that pointed to missile involvement.
In the aircraft, in the tail of the aircraft, it looks very much like a surface-to-air missile exploded probably 30 to 50 meters to the left rear of the aircraft, and the shrapnel from that, it's misunderstood how these missiles work. They don't actually strike the aircraft, they explode near it and they send shrapnel out.
Preliminary findings suggested that the aircraft may have been struck by shrapnel from a missile, leading to catastrophic damage that compromised the plane's ability to maintain altitude and control. This revelation shifted the investigation from a potential weather-related incident to a serious inquiry into military operations in the area. Now, let's talk about the geopolitical context, which made everything even more complicated. The region has a history of military tensions, and the presence of Russian military forces raised significant questions about airspace security. The risk of civilian aircraft being caught in crossfire or misidentified as military targets became a pressing concern for aviation authorities and governments alike. It's a scary thought, and one that many people haven't considered until now. In light of these developments, the investigation took on heightened urgency. Aviation safety experts, military analysts, and international organizations began collaborating to assess the risks associated with flying in conflict zones. The need for improved communication and coordination between military and civilian aviation authorities became increasingly clear. The tragic events of Flight 8243 underscored the vulnerabilities faced by airlines.
Okay, so I'm not sure what's happening, but there's something going on this flight. All the flight attendants are running around like crazy.
Operating in such volatile environments. As the investigation continued, families of the victims were left with so many unanswered questions. The emotional toll was immense as they tried to understand what led to the loss of their loved ones. Many sought answers, hoping for clarity amid their grief. The tragedy of Flight 8243 not only highlighted the immediate dangers of air travel in conflict-affected regions, but also catalyzed broader discussions about the need for enhanced safety measures and protocols to protect civilian lives in the skies. The investigation into the Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 crash revealed significant evidence suggesting external interference, particularly from missile strikes. Preliminary findings indicated that the aircraft may have been downed by a Russian air defense system, with reports of missile shrapnel found at the crash site. U.S. intelligence also pointed to early indications of this external involvement.
Officially, we have not received any version from either side, neither from Russia nor from Azerbaijan. Therefore, it is impossible and irresponsible to either refute or lean toward any version at this time,
raising serious concerns about airspace security in the region. As investigations continued, multiple countries, including Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Russia, became involved, each examining various aspects of the incident. The complexity of the situation was heightened by conflicting narratives regarding the cause of the crash. Some evidence suggested that the aircraft was struck by shrapnel from a missile, leading to speculation about the involvement of Russian military forces. U.S. intelligence reports indicated that the plane may have been unintentionally shot down, further complicating the narrative and raising questions about the safety protocols in place for civilian flights in conflict zones. Azerbaijan Airlines stated that the plane experienced external physical and technical interference during its flight. Although they didn't specify the source of this interference, U.S. officials confirmed that early indications were pointing to the possibility of the aircraft being brought down by Russian air defense systems, emphasizing the need for a thorough investigation. This entire incident has sparked serious concerns regarding airspace safety in regions with ongoing military conflicts. The potential for civilian aircraft to be caught in crossfire or misidentified as military targets is a pressing issue that needs to be addressed urgently. The tragic events surrounding Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243.
Seconds before the crash in Kazakhstan, the passenger plane, an Embraer 190 aircraft, hurtles toward the ground. According to emergency officials, the Azerbaijan Airlines flight was headed from Baku to Grozny.
Have underscored the urgent need for enhanced safety measures in aviation, particularly in conflict zones, to ensure that civilian lives are protected and that robust protocols are established to prevent similar incidents in the future. In the end, nothing can undo the tragedy of Flight 8243. Lives were lost, families were shattered, and tough questions remain. If anything, this should be a wake-up call for better safety and accountability, so something like this never happens again. That's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more thrilling and informative content on aviation disasters and plane crashes.